Yes, it is grammar day again. Today's subject is going to be subject and predicate. Subjects and predicates are the meat of any sentence. Without them, you have a fragment. You can't have a sentence if you don't have a subject and a predicate. Predicate is really a fancy word for verb, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So let's start with subject. So the subject is the who or the what the sentence is about, or the who or what performs the action. So this is going into your verbs here. So I have two examples. The first is, for years, Mike Ditka thought he was the subject of the Chicago Bears. The subject of this sentence is Mike Ditka. The second sentence, he was the subject of many news stories. The subject is he, because he is the one that the rest of the sentence is about. So really you want to ask yourself, what is this sentence all about? Okay, or who is this sentence all about? That's what's going to be your subject. So it's about the football. Then you need to ask yourself, who did this? And that is going to be your subject. Now, subject is something that goes beyond just writing. Pieces of art have a subject. If you look at this particular painting, if I asked you, what is the subject of this painting? Some of you might say it's the watch, which you're really on the right basis there. The subject is the idea of time and what time does, and it's time flies, if you take a look at the birds and them being the hands on the watch. So just wanted to point this out for those of you who need some other type of analogy to remember that the subject is what something is about. All right. One little tricky thing is the implied you. So sometimes the subject is not written out. Instead, it's implied. For instance, when your parents say, go to your room, the subject of that sentence is you. They're skipping the you part, but it is implied. Everyone knows that it's you, go to your room. So when Ditka is yelling, get out on that field, the implied is you, number 4, get out on that field. All right, let's get into the predicate. This is a little bit more complicated than subject because there are different kinds of verbs out there. So a predicate is what is happening or a state of being. Okay, state of being means basically the existence state. If you've ever heard Hamlet's to be or not to be, that is the question. What he's saying in that is, should I exist or should I not exist? He's actually contemplating suicide in those lines. But really, it's that state of being, to exist or to not exist. And that is tricky for some people to realize that that's a verb, but it is a verb. It's what we are. And we'll talk about that when we get to linking and helping verbs. A predicate can be a single verb or a verb phrase. So a verb and then its helping verbs. So it may not just be one word. You can't just look for that singular word. So for instance, Lance Briggs just caught the ball. Okay, my subject is Lance Briggs, and my verb is caught. Lance Briggs is a player for the Chicago Bears. Again, Lance Briggs is the subject, and my verb here is, and it's a state of being verb. So notice caught is an action verb, is a state of being. He just is. He is part of that team. He has been playing football for many years. This is one of those verb phrases. Has been playing. I have an action verb, playing, but then I have the verbs has and been, which are helping out this word, playing. So let's break this down a little bit more. The 3 types of verbs. You have an action verb. An action is something actually happening. So for instance, number 13, tackled number 20. The action is tackled. Linking verb. A linking verb is bringing 2 things together. So it's the subject, and then it is linking it to either another noun or an adjective. Okay, so the way I think of linking verbs is I think of them as an equal sign. So for instance, Cutler is an inconsistent quarterback. Well, I can also say Cutler equals an inconsistent quarterback. It's the same thing. And what I'm bringing together is Cutler to inconsistent with that word is. And then last is helping verbs. Helping verbs, these are team players. You will never have a helping verb without an action verb or a linking verb. So for instance, Walter Payton's quick feet are remembered by many fans. The word are is helping the word remembered. And how is it helping? Well, it's helping by giving me a specific verb tense. All right, so let's take a deeper look at these linking verb things. I'm skipping action verbs because I think most of you have a good understanding of action verbs at this point from past years of schooling. But linking verbs, these words are state of being. Okay, they're always going to be a state of being. And the linking verbs are forms of the verb to be. Is, am, are, were, was, be, being, been. And as we have Lovie Smith saying here, these words are verbs all the time. They can't be anything other than a verb, but they can be a helping verb and a linking verb. That's where it can be a little tricky. You have to decide what type of verb is it right now. Okay, but it is important to write this list down and memorize it because you need to know that these are in fact verbs. All right, other linking verbs. Okay, so I just gave you a list of state of being verbs that are always linking verbs or helping verbs, but there are some words that can act as both actions or linking verbs. And so really you have to look at, is the verb being used as an action? Is something being performed in the sentence? Or is it joining two ideas together? So here are some examples of action verbs that can also be linking verbs. Smell, feel, taste, looks, appears. These are not the only ones out there, but these are some of the most common ones. Okay, so again, these can be both action and linking verbs. So what do they look like? Okay, well, the locker room smells wretched. Well, no one's actually smelling anything. The locker room's not sitting there smelling itself. So in this case, it is in fact a linking verb. Even before the game, he looked exhausted. Okay, here again, he is not looking at himself. He equals exhausted. Dicka always appears angry. Okay, well, Dicka isn't just magically appearing somewhere. He's not like, poof, here he is. Instead, he equals angry. And after the game, he smelled under his arms. Well, this is actually an action because he is actually smelling under his arms. So here are our visuals for that. Okay, now I want you to pause the video and I want you to identify, okay, I want you to write down each sentence and then you need to, sorry about that, and then you need to underline the verb and circle the two words the verb is connecting. If the verb is not a linking verb, write action after the sentences. When you're finished, unpause the video and continue. Okay, so a subject and a predicate equal a complete sentence, right? Okay, I'm not an enormous fan of Jay Cutler. Don't think he's the smartest cookie out there. But anyways, no, Jay Cutler, they do not always equal a complete sentence. It depends on the situation. If it's a subject and an action verb, then yes, it's a complete sentence. Cutler punted. The Bears won. These are complete sentences. But if it is a subject and a linking verb, then no, that alone is not a complete sentence. It's a fragment because it would read like this: Cutler is. So I want you to provide a predicate nominative or predicate adjective in order to create that complete sentence. So Cutler is inconsistent. Cutler is a quarterback. So a predicate nominative is a noun that is being linked to the subject, and a predicate adjective is an adjective being linked to that subject. So Cutler equals inconsistent. Cutler equals quarterback. All right, now let's talk about helping verbs for a couple minutes. These are our team players. They like to help other verbs. And there are 23 of them. I want you to write these down, and you need to memorize them. Okay, these are words you know, but this is a reasonable task. You need to know that these are, in fact, helping verbs. And helping verb means that it actually has to be present with another verb in order to work. It's helping other verbs. So it looks like this. The locker room must smell wretched. Okay, well, my verb phrase is must smell. Okay, smell is my linking verb, but must is helping that linking verb. It's helping with creating the tense. Even before the game, he could have been exhausted. Okay, again, my linking verb is been. Could have are two verbs helping create this tense of been. Mike Ditka must have always appeared angry. Appeared is our linking verb. And again, must have are our helping verbs. Now, I want you to notice two things. You can have more than one helping verb helping the same verb. Also, there can be words that separate the helping verbs from the verb they are helping. All right, number 4. After the game, he will smell under his arms. Here we have that action verb of smell and the word will helping it out. It's a future tense. It's going to happen in the future. And that's why we have that helping verb there. So what's the point of all of this? I've mentioned it a couple times already, but helping verbs help change the verb tense. All right, last but not least, you get to try it again. So again, pause the video. You're going to write these 4 sentences down. Then underline the action or the linking verb and circle the helping verbs. I am going to be checking these tomorrow, so please make sure you have them along with notes written in your notebook. All right, have a great evening.